Welcome back everybody, welcome back to a new series called Food Face-Off. Now this is the very first episode and we're starting off with McDonald's burger, single burger items. And we're going to create a tournament tree which you guys will see right over here. And we're going to find out which burger is the best. Alrighty, our first bracket for today, we got the BLT with crispy chicken and then the quarter pounder with cheese. Now, for our grading system, we're going to have three categories. Number one, presentation, so how bomb these burgers look. Number two, taste, obviously how flavorsome these burgers are. And number three, the value for money, which I think is obviously a big factor when we choose to pick, the meal we want to eat. Alrighty, let's get right into it. We're gonna start off with our first seed, which is the BLT with crispy chicken. Now, looking at it, this boy thick is pretty good. It looks really good, it looks really appetizing. The bacon looks nice and crisp. Let's give it a bite. It's pretty fire. Alright, our first bite is done. Now, judging it quickly on looks, special type of bun, sesame seeds, a nice form of other type of seed. Honestly, really complex. The bun, I prefer it more. It's like crispy on the outside and nice and fluffy in the middle. The looks, very vibrant. You got the nice mix of the green lettuce, the vibrant red tomato, the crispy bacon, and then really crunchy, nice dark brown, rich golden color fried chicken. Looks, I'm gonna have to give it probably a nice 9. We'll give it a 9. Pretty satisfied. Now for flavor, like I said, chicken super juicy, bacon very crisp, so very good texture difference right there. Our sauce, it's good, it does its job in a BLT. I guess, I know that in a BLT, like mayo is the main component, it's the only sauce you're gonna have with it, but you could have probably, made it a little more interesting. Come on, McDonald's. Otherwise, everything else is pretty good. Value for money. Now, this is the most expensive burger on the menu, at least for the McDonald's in my place. $8.69, I believe. Let me double check. $8.79 Canadian dollars, so a little pricey for a McDonald's meal. If you want to, obviously this is just the individual item, so it's even a little more pricey for just an individual burger. So value for money, I'll probably give it a 4, because most McDonald's menu are quite almost 50% cheaper, so I'm probably gonna have to give it a 4. That gives a total point score of, yeah, I'll do the maths afterwards. All right, moving on to the quarter pounder with cheese. Now, initial looks, it's a sad burger, I'm not gonna lie. It's just bread, meat, bread, and a little bit of cheese in the middle. But, sometimes simplicity is the best. We'll give it a shot. I'm lucky I graded the looks before opening it up, because goddamn. Flavor, meat patty, not too dry, pretty good. Obviously, I'm factoring the fact that, I have to order it, deliver it, so it's a little cold, but we're not putting that into our score. It's what you ask in a really simple meal. And pretty satisfied. Flavor, obviously I can't grade it as high as this, but for a simple, it does the job. You want a burger, this is what you'll get, and you're gonna be satisfied with it. I'll give it probably a 6. I think a 6 is solid down the line. Now, for the money, talk about the value of our item. Our double quarter pounder with cheese is single quarter pounder with cheese is $5.69. Much cheaper than the BLT. Value for money, I think it's pretty decent. I'm gonna give it probably a nice 7. So here's the total score for the quarter pounder. You know what that means? That means the BLT is going through. Now moving on to our second bracket, we got the Western Barbecue quarter pounder, I believe, and the McDouble. Now this is the second bracket. The winner of this is gonna go face the BLT of the first bracket. First of all, we're gonna start off with the Western Barbecue quarter pounder. 1 quarter pounder has already left the tournament. We'll see if this one, pushes through. First of all, looks, you get that really rich dark brown color you expect with the bacon, almost the caramelized onions, and then the barbecue beef patty with the sauce on top. Looks nice. I'm gonna take a look inside a bit. Yeah, you get that really rich brown color, honestly. Looks pretty good. I'll give it, obviously, it's traveled in a box in Uber and all that, so therefore, it's a little squish and all that, but we're gonna disregard that. Looks, I'll give it a nice 8, I reckon. Ooh, that's as good as the BLT though. I give it a 7. 7 on looks. I'm giving it a quick taste. Alright, first bite is done. Honestly, really satisfied. I'm gonna give it probably a nice 8, I reckon. So that brings the Western barbecue quarter pounder to 15. And now we're gonna quickly grade the value for money. Now let's see. The quarter pounder Western barbecue style is $6.69. A little more on the pricey end of most McDonald's items, but I think it's not too bad. I'll give it I think a 6 will be fair. So that brings the Western barbecue quarter pounder to a total of. All right, moving on to our fourth seed. Now here we got the McDouble. Quick looks. It's very sad. Is this the thinnest patty? I don't know. This looks like the thinnest patty so far, so I'm gonna probably have to give it a 3. Honestly, it's not great. Hopefully, you know, I can pick up in the other categories, but looks are honestly not that great. We'll quickly look inside. It's a mess. All right, quick bite. We'll bite right in the middle where there's a pickle too. All right, first bite done. Honestly, not too bad. Nice and juicy. The pickles create a nice balance, I find. Obviously, you get the normal toppings of mustard and ketchup. You got that layer of cheese. You know, the normal. Nothing out of the ordinary for a typical McDonald's burger. I think taste-wise, I'm gonna give it probably a 6. I reckon. I think a 6, or maybe 5 or 6. Probably 6. We'll be 6. We'll say 6 because it didn't score that well in the first one. Not too bad. Now, most importantly, I think where this one will score the highest is its value for money. This is, I believe, one of the cheapest burgers you can find at McDonald's, and it comes in at $3.09. Now that's super cheap. That's almost practically half the price of the Western barbecue quarter pounder. So I'm gonna have to score it highly for this. Like, if you want a burger, you want something quick at McDonald's, you want like a nice cheap meal, you'll probably definitely go for this one. Solid probably. Honestly, a 9. A 9 would be pretty fair, I think, in this evaluation. So that brings the McDouble to a total of this. And that means that our Western barbecue quarter pounder goes through to the next round, and it's gonna face off against the BLT. Moving on to the other side of our tournament tree, now we got the third bracket. We got, I think, arguably the biggest clash so far in this tournament. The Filet-O-Fish against the Big Mac. Now, Filet-O-Fish is a very hit or miss. I know that you either love it or you hate it, but for me, it's something I had a lot as a child. So it brings back a lot of childhood memories. On the other hand, you got probably what defines and literally puts McDonald's up there, the Big Mac. You know, that burger that you always associate with the name McDonald's and that golden arch. So I think it's gonna be a really tight competition. Let's go right into it. So first, looks on the Filet-O-Fish. I don't know why, but on a personal level, I always found that squared fish looks really attractive in a round bun. So if I open it up, you get that, obviously that iconic tartar sauce, which just looks so good. And it's one of those that look like simplicity makes it so good. I think in looks, I'm gonna give it 7. The bun is quite, I feel like this bun pops more because there's no sesame seeds, so I don't know, it's a nice shiny glow over it. I'm gonna give it a quick taste test and see what we grade it. Alright, first bite done. Brings back so many memories. I'm gonna have to give it, I know you guys can probably say this is biased, but I really enjoyed this burger, so I'm gonna have to give it an 8. So far it's scoring really, really high, and I'm sorry, but we might have a big knockout of one of the favorites. Oh well, it was a random draw, so, you know, randomly selected in tournament 3, you might face the best player in the tournament. Who cares? Unlucky. Next time. Alright, quickly, value for money. How much is this Filet-O-Fish worth? $5.49. I think, is that middle of the road? I think that's middle of the road for most McDonald's items, at least we have in this tournament tree. So, I think I'm gonna give it a 7. I think a 7 is fair. So that brings the Filet-O-Fish to a total of. Moving on to our 6th seed, the Big Mac. Now this is the big boy. Very tall, towers almost over every single other burger on the menu. Now, obviously it's been through a little bit of travel, but the buns look nice and tall. The patty looks a bit sad though. This one looks like it's a little drier than the other. Sauce on the bottom of the bun, interesting. Both on the bottom side of the, under the patty and not the top. Weird, but oh well. Let's give it a quick bite. These onions are very sad. But look-wise, I think it's the iconic look you have to associate with it, so I'm probably gonna give it, I think a 7 is fair for a Big Mac. Now, quickly dive into the first taste test. Okay, first bite done. Honestly, that is probably my favorite burger on the menu, so I'm gonna have, like, no matter where you go in I guess there's always special menu items. Sorry, I somehow touched the sauce, but there's always random menu items from different like places in the world, right? You'll find stuff that you find in UK that you'll never find, for example, in South Africa. So the Big Mac is always there though. So I don't know, it's just so good. I think I'm gonna have to give it a 9. I think that's the highest scorer in taste so far. It's my favorite burger. It might be biased, but this is my tournament tree. I don't care. So it's a 9. All right, moving on to the value for money. Value for money. This Big Mac is 5.69. How much was the fillet fish? 5.49. Wow, so very similar. And I think it has a better value for money though. We gave this a 7. This one's a little bigger too, you know, you get more like meat for the money. You know what? I'm gonna have to give the Big Mac. I think it's down the middle of the road again on most McDonald's item menus, so it's gonna be difficult. Now I'm about to knock out my childhood dream. I think I'm gonna have to give it an 8. You know what? That means the Big Mac's a total of here, and that means the Big Mac's going through. Alrighty, moving on to the final bracket. Now, we got the face-off of the McChickens. You got the spicy habanero McChicken and then the original McChicken. Now, let's be real here. They're gonna get obliterated by the Big Mac anyway, so let's just move on real quick. Alright, habanero look. I feel like most of these chicken burgers look quite nice because they get a rich golden color. Nice saucy orange color. Lettuce is a little all over the place, but it's been moved and dropped for the intro, so, you know, fair enough. Looks, I'll give it a 7. 7, yeah, 7, I think that's fair. Alright, taste test. Taste test done, let's see. Spicy habanero, honestly McDonald's, step up your spice game, this barely tingles, it's not even Tabasco level hot. So, I think for false advertising, I'm just joking, don't sue me. You know what? If it's a little spicier, I'll give it probably like a 7 or 8. I'll give it a 7, you know what? 7. 7, pretty fair. Value for money. Take a look. Spicy habanero McChicken, $5.89. Slightly more expensive than the Big Mac. Is it worth it? Hell no. Take a Big Mac any day. So I'm probably going to give it a 6, I reckon. So that brings the spicy habanero Big Mac. Spicy habanero Spicy habanero McChicken to this value. Alright, moving into our final contender. Now, this chicken for some reason looks a little more dry. Bad start, because you're already the basic version of you. Let's take a look at the... It's not even in the center of McDonald's, what are you doing? Fast food, I guess, fair enough. You know what, why not? Maybe it traveled, maybe the mayo moved when it was traveling, fair enough. Give you the benefit of the doubt. Looks! Bun's a little more toasted, almost. Quite dark. Way darker than the original. Yeah, that looks a little too dark, I think, for simple toast. So I'm gonna give it probably a 6. Now, taste. I do believe that this dressing is just mayo. I don't think it's a tartare. No, let's just give it a try. Taste test done. Although, I don't think necessarily the chicken burgers obviously stand out as much as like the beef burgers at McDonald's. They're not too bad, but I still do prefer the spicy habanero. Although it's not that spicy, it's still a nice small tang and a nice kick at the end. So I'm gonna have to grade this. Even the BLT was quite ahead of these two, so I'm probably gonna give this a nice 6. I believe a 6 is quite fair. Value for money, I believe this one's slightly cheaper than the McChicken habanero one, so I'm gonna have to give it a 7, I think. Then again, these are still, you can probably get Big Mac for roughly the same price, I believe, 5.69. Yeah, literally the same price as a McChicken. Once again, like you're gonna get a Big Mac, right? You basically get double the size. So that puts this McChicken onto this level, and that means the spicy habanero McChicken moves on. Alrighty, moving on to the semi-finals, I believe. Round of 16, quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. Yes, semi-finals. Alright, moving on to the semi-finals, we got the BLT with crispy chicken and then the Western barbecue quarter pounder. Now, we got a completely different grading scheme. This time, it's not out of 10 anymore. It's Whoever takes that 1 point from that category. 3 categories, obviously 2 and a tiebreaker if we need it. Number 1, sexiness. Now, how sexy these burgers are. So that's looks basically just reframed. And then second category will be complexity. Taste, reframed, you know, you see what I did there. And if that doesn't settle the tie between these two, we got the wow factor. Now this is just how original I think the burgers are, and I guess how exciting they sound to the ear, just if you were to read it off the menu. Now we're not gonna waste any more time, we're gonna jump right in. Sexiness. Now, I said it before, I think this one, especially because of the bun, so I'm talking about the BLT with crispy chicken, just looks really good. And you know what? I think that's gonna have to go through in terms of sexiness. So that gives 1 point to the BLT with crispy chicken. Now, secondly, is the complexity of flavor. This is gonna be slightly touched upon due to, like, I guess, personal choice. And for me, I'm not the biggest fan of the BLT. Like, for me, that's just too generic in a general sandwich. So I think, you know what? I'm gonna give it a quick bite again just to make sure I remember the flavors, because we have gone through like 8 burgers by now. All right, then again, you know what? You need burgers, it's a BLT. You want a BLT, you're gonna get a BLT with crispy chicken. It's nicer than, I guess, standard BLT sandwiches, but then again, it's just a BLT. Now for the Western barbecue quarter pounder, I know in the first round, I really like the flavor profile, especially these crispy caramelized onions. Are they just crispy onions? Either way, they're fire. All right, you know, complexity, I really think that the barbecue flavor really pops in this one. The melted cheese, the crispy onions, a lot of different textures. I know there's texture with the crispy bacon and all that, but in my opinion, it's a BLT and it's chicken burger. So I'm gonna have to give the complexity flavor. I think there's deeper flavors within this Western barbecue quarter pounder. That means we're tied 1-1. Now the wow factor. Which one would I say is more original? It's kind of hard to argue because mainly McDonald's burgers have always been traditionally beef. You get the typical Big Mac, normal quarter pounder, McDouble and all that, it's beef. On the other hand, you got a McChicken and all that, but with the BLT look, like they're both quite unique. But then the texture of this one, I feel like really goes to another level because the sauce in this one's a barbecue sauce. You don't really get that in any other ones. I know that occasionally they might launch like a more like Texan, like limited edition burger. And I honestly really like that concept. I think it almost brings you like from the typical fast food image of a burger to like, wow, a rich, like, you know, yeah, like from the barbecue like burger, like right from the grill onto your plate. On the other hand, a BLT, when you hear a BLT, like, you know what it is, don't get me wrong. If you want a BLT, this is a banging BLT. But then again, it's like, it's a BLT. You go to like order, like any restaurant or burger, you're probably gonna order something a little more interesting on the menu. Like if I heard Western barbecue flavor, like I just think rich flavors, BLT, I'm like, okay, you know, generic sandwich and I will enjoy. I think it's very tough, but I think I'm gonna have to send through the Western barbecue quarter pounder. That's my winner for this round. That goes into the final, and we'll see who comes out on the second side of the tournament trivia. Moving on to our second semifinal, winner goes to the finals against the Western barbecue quarter pounder. Now, we got the Big Mac, the monster, you know, the iconic McDonald's burger, and we got the spicy habanero chicken. All right, so we're gonna be fair. We're gonna have to, you know, give each one another bite. Let's go straight in with the Big Mac. So good. Now for the chicken thing. It's not bad. Alright, first category, sexiness. Big Mac. I think Big Mac has to take it. It's just that double layer. I think it will win against most burgers. Maybe not the BLT though. BLT was quite nice in color. Maybe it doesn't have the richest color, but I think its sheer size has to be a dominant factor in this battle. So I'm gonna have to give this 1 point to the sexiness. 1 point to the Big Mac for the sexiness. Now, moving on to the second, complexity of flavor. You know what? We might be a close here. What do we define by complexity? Which one tastes better or which one's like has more layers? I think I'm gonna have to go back to the Big Mac, obviously super flavorsome, you know, iconic burger. You're gonna love the flavors, most people are gonna like it. Spicy habanero, now if this was slightly spicier, I think we're gonna potentially give it to this, but because of I guess a slight letdown within the name of the burger. I'm gonna have to give it to the Big Mac. And you know what that means? We got our first clean sweep. You got blown out the water. You know what you are? A loser's leftover. Get out. You know, wow factor, we're not even gonna bother grading it because the Big Mac's gonna win. It's the Big Mac. Moving on to the final. Finally, the season finale on our McDonald's Burger Edition. We got the Quarter Pounder, Western Barbecue Quarter Pounder, and then the Big Mac. Now, I think these two were the favorites from the start. These two were the ones I would have thought that would have made it. Actually, no, maybe the Filet-O-Fish even. But it got unluckily faced up against the Big Mac in the first round, so we didn't get to see it. Anyways, quickly take another bite just to freshen up the flavor palette, just to be fair as possible. Alrighty, in terms of sexiness, I said it before, the Big Mac, this one specifically, slightly a little more like dull, the color. The patty itself is not as dark and rich as the one we have over here, but I think its sheer size is really what gives it that iconic look. Now, on the other hand, a brighter colored bun, which is actually quite interesting. I'm not too sure why. A very rich looking, literally looks like it's gonna be full of calories. And I think in terms of sexiness, ooh. Like if you look at it from the back, like the juice pops out and everything, but then this one is just so iconic. You gotta give that iconic, iconic value to it. And I think if you show it from face value, most people will recognize this one over this one. And in terms of sexiness, although this specific Big Mac is not that pretty, I've seen some that bang. So you know what? You're lucky you have a prettier brother. I'm gonna have to give it to the Big Mac in terms of the sexier winner. So that's the sexy content done. We're gonna move on to the complexity in flavor. Now, I did have a bite, and like I said, this one, generic, but very, very, I guess, commonly associated. Like it's something you associate immediately. Like you take a bite, you're like, oh yeah, that's a Big Mac and all that. Secret sauce. Honestly, probably one of the better sauces in McDonald's, although this barbecue sauce comes quite close. I just think that most of the time, the Big Mac is slightly drier than the other burgers. This one here was probably pleasantly surprising to me. It was nice and juicy, the sauce is very rich, the different textures, especially with the crispy onion, obviously it traveled a little bit, so it's not as crispy, but if it was, I'm sure if it was to order like fresh in restaurant, it would be much better. And I just think that in terms of a flavor profile, I prefer this one, honestly. I might even start ordering this over the Big Mac. So you know what, the flavor point, complexity point, I'm gonna give it to the Western Barbecue Quarter Pound. Now, the wow factor. This is gonna be interesting. It's a tiebreaker. Who do we put forward? Do we put that iconic Big Mac forward, or do we put, I guess, the new boy in town, the Western Barbecue Quarter Pounder? Which one is more of a wow factor? I think, you know what? You just really can't compete because no matter where in the world, you're not gonna find this one. You might not find this one everywhere in the world, but this one is gonna be on the top of every single menu, every single McDonald's promo videos. And you say McDonald's to somebody, the first thing they're gonna say is Big Mac. Like, you know, let's go get a Big Mac. And that makes the winner our first ever episode of the Food Face-Off, specifically the McDonald's burger episode, the Big Mac, the iconic monstrous burger from McDonald's. I think it's a fair winner. Very close second place for the Western Barbecue Quarter Pounder. If you guys disagree, let me know what you guys would have put in each bracket. Let me know who maybe your general winner out of the 8 was. Or maybe what specific McDonald's item that you really, really enjoy, specifically a burger you have in your country. But that's it. Make sure you guys drop in the comments which type of episode you guys want to see. Could be a specific brand's item, for example, like we said, McDonald's burgers. It could be Burger King's burgers, or like McDonald's nuggets and dipping sauce. It can be anything. Drinks, chips, candy. You get the point. Takeaway, anything you want. Make sure you guys just drop a bunch of ideas. I'm gonna list them throughout. I'm gonna have all of them in the list, and then we'll make sure we go through every single one that you guys want to see. Hope everybody enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys next time.